Hello and welcome to the Earth Observed podcast, a podcast where I sit down with the founders, the technical leaders, and the minds shaping the future of Earth data, geospatial technology, and atmospheric AI across Europe, North America, and beyond. In each episode, we take a vertical dive into a topic chosen by our guest, giving you a front row seat to the ideas, the tools, and the challenges that enable innovation from space to subsurface and everything in between. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Selby Cary, co-founder and head of product and engineering at Mapify, a tech startup helping SME logistics and warehousing operators boost their asset profitability through AI. Selby, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good, fantastic. So, look, as the title goes, we're going to be looking into mapping logistics assets, enhancing profit margins for SME logistics operators with AI. Before we dive into the discussion there, Selby, I was just wondering if you can give our audience, the listeners, the viewers there, just a bit of a brief teaser into some of the topics that we might cover today.
Sure. So what we'll learn today is the challenges surrounding the logistics industry and the opportunity that AI provides, the complexities of actually deploying AI into an industry that is traditionally pen and paper or Excel based, and also the opportunity in the future for how AI or automated systems can help us run our entire logistics operations semi-autonomously.
Amazing. I'm really excited about this particular episode. Reason being, a lot of the time I have people coming on from, a climate risk background. Maybe they've worked in like atmospheric AI to do with the weather and meteorological data. Maybe they do come from a true space background. But I really am interested in what you guys are doing with Mapify in that logistics realm. And I think there could be a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners interested in the type of work you're doing and how you are answering particular challenges there. So I guess starting off from the beginning, a very simple question. What is Mapify?
It's a good question. So you can have a look on mapifylogistics.com. It is a visual productivity tool that manages your entire asset operation. So what this means in practice is you might have a small logistics business, or you run operations that incur some sort of cost. You may use equipment in a warehouse, such as a forklift, or you might move goods via HGVs or large trucks. So it's a range of different operations you might perform. And each operation has a cost, it has a revenue associated with it, and it has potential conflicts or problems that occur along the line. And to try and juggle all of that in your heads or on a spreadsheet can be quite complex. So what Mapify does is it aggregates all that information and it creates an operating system for your organization. So you can see it on a map, on a diagram, you can see a dashboard of how your operations are performing, and you can schedule regular tasks and prevent conflicts before they occur. So what this means is that you can say goodbye to downtime events where your operation stops and you're unable to make any revenue, and you can say hello to profitability, because the profitability is what helps an SME to grow. And that's what we focus on, helping small businesses grow using AI.
Of course, it makes complete sense there. Tell us, what was the inspiration? What was the reason, the meaning, the purpose behind starting Mapify? Because I understand that you also have a co-founder as well. Is that right?
Yes. So Hamish and I, Hamish being my co-founder and the CEO, we actually met about 2 or 3 years ago. And at the time I was working on a different venture, and he was building a railway maintenance product that works with Network Rail, who's the railway infrastructure owner. So we basically joined forces to launch a software product for Network Rail that would manage all of the assets across the UK. So for the average user of the railway, like myself, I get frustrated when my train doesn't arrive on time or there's a delay and I arrive a little bit later. 90 to 95% of the time, that is because an asset, a physical piece of the railway, has gone offline. So it could be a signal box, it could be a piece of railway itself, meaning that it's unsafe to travel at a specific speed. Now, that really has an impact on my day, and I can imagine it has an impact on hundreds of thousands of other travelers. So by maintaining and understanding where those problems are going to occur, you can send teams out when they're needed to fix them. Obviously, if that happens during the middle of the day, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of pounds in refunded tickets, and obviously Network Rail, hundreds of millions of pounds per year. So we built that product for Network Rail. We launched it. It was used across the UK by Network Rail team members. And during that period of time, we realized that other industries had a similar problem. They were using spreadsheets to manage a large volume of operations. There were errors in the spreadsheets, and they couldn't really visualize it or connect them all together. So they lacked that relationship between all the different data points. So they had a lot of information, but they struggled to make decisions really quickly. And they had no ability to use AI tools. So we took the risk of starting our own venture in this space, going bigger than we've ever gone before. Instead of winning a contract and building something against some requirements, we decided to build an all singing, all dancing platform. So with Mapify now, even I use it for my own personal logistics. So whether it's maintenance for my flat or traveling abroad, there is a cost element to all my logistics, and there is a revenue element. So even as a small individual user, I'm using it for a small fee per month. And then we have users that are doing anywhere from 200,000 to £1 million month in revenue, and they're moving large volumes of goods. So some are really critical. So they could be powering biogas facilities. And if they don't get the waste or input material, then there's no gas that comes out the other end. So it depends on how you want to use Mapify. And what we discovered as we started to build it was Mapify is becoming an operations or an operating system for any logistics across the UK, across the world. And we have users everywhere. So the name Mapify, funny enough, came from one of our first user interviews where one of the users just said, what I really want is to be able to see a map of all my assets and know what's going to happen, when, and how. So that's what it started as. Can I just map my assets? Can I just Google Maps my assets?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just keen to understand if there's like a particular profile, a particular target audience prospect that you have in mind, because from what I understand and what we've learned so far, you really can tackle so many different industries.
So simply put, we work mostly with warehousing and logistics operators. So they are generally our ICP, if you were to call it, our ideal customer profile, is a small to medium price. They're generally generating anywhere from £1 million in turnover to 10, 20 million pounds a year. They have a small team, maybe a small team of, let's say, sub 5 people running the operations of the business. If there is any downtime or any issue relating to an asset, be it a vehicle or a forklift, it has a real impact on the business that day. So they might lose anywhere from £10,000 for a missed delivery all the way up to £100,000. So there's a real impact on their operations. And they're traditionally using spreadsheets or pen and paper, or it's sort of off the cuff, and sometimes sending WhatsApp messages and images to kind of communicate. So we work with them closely because they understand the problem. There's an immediate pain on their business. But as you said, we started to onboard users from across the UK, across different industries. We've had property managers. We've had personal users like myself. We've had a whole range of, let's just call them industrial facilities who want to use our products to manage their assets, be it manufacturing equipment, packaging lines, that sort of thing. So we initially started with that ICP of warehouse and logistics, and soon we'll be launching a version of Mapify that anyone can sign up to, and you can get started for free. So we're willing to prove the value to you by allowing you to use the product free of charge and start mapping your entire enterprise. And within the first day or the first couple of minutes of using it, a lot of our users immediately want to do more.
Keen to understand how you actually like use this type of technology. I'm going to refer to the most simplistic way of saying AI ultimately. Let's say we've got a forklift truck, as you've been referring to. Let's say it's broken down, or maybe a lorry on the motorway, for example, which is transporting goods. I'm keen to understand how Mapify actually is aware of this type of data. Is it a case that someone needs to manually input that data there, and then there will be data surrounding that, giving it context? What's the potential revenue loss for something like this? How can someone mitigate maybe that risk there, or what's kind of the protocol as to how we can maybe solve this particular problem at this point in time? I'm just keen to understand how and how Mapify ultimately works there.
Sure. So I'll give you a couple examples. I'll start with one of our core users. So they use it on a daily basis to manage all the activities they perform across their operation. Of course, when you first start, you upload all your existing spreadsheets, a list of assets, a list of personnel, a list of regular activities you perform. And then in the platform, you can just recur those activities. So you may have deliveries that occur every Tuesday, and there's a certain revenue for that delivery. It occurs on a certain time. Generally, it's performed by the right supplier. So you may have suppliers in your organization or team members performing that activity. So that's the first step. And then every day, as you're using Mapify, either you can use it on your phone, a tablet, or a desktop, you'll get notifications or you'll get a pop-up that will show you if there's any conflicts that day. Because really, you need to know if there's an issue. Otherwise, things are smooth and everyone's happy. So it will notify you if there's a conflict or something has not happened, and then you can resolve that conflict. It might suggest to you that you call the supplier to reorder or to rearrange delivery, or in a larger case, let's say, as you said, a truck has broken down, because you can share Mapify with all your suppliers and your customers, even though it is your organization, all viewers are free.
Yeah.
Means that if there's a breakdown, instead of it going from the driver to the driver's manager, from the driver's manager via email to your logistic manager, to then go to the technician or the person receiving the goods on site, which is 4 different emails, it might either never arrive or arrive too late. So with Mapify, everyone sings off the same hymn sheet. So that driver can just go into the platform, mark it as, there's been an event, the delivery won't arrive, and then immediately they're able to dispatch something new, not just on the supply side, but also logistics side. So that's one example. To give you one from my own context, I'm a property owner. I have a flat, and my flat has maintenance. It's always due. But as you may imagine, the bank account is not limitless. There is things that you can only certain do in a given time frame. So let's say you want to replace your shower, or you need to replace your boiler, or God forbid, there is a roofing issue. Now, even as an individual user, when I started to see my customers using Mapify, I immediately realized I could use Mapify for my own use. So I now can plan ahead and say, oh, we need to replace this part, or I live in a stairwell where there's 10 other landlords, 10 other flats. We need to coordinate together to replace parts of the roof, or there is a renovation that's needed to the stairwell. We need to replace lights. So I started using it because there's too many activities, too many assets, too many moving parts. And actually, I need to plan the investment with the costs that it incurs for me to have a property.
Yeah.
So that's a really small, and I've shown you a really big case. And on the enterprise level, you've got people like Network Rail with millions of assets spread across a geographic area. It's almost impossible to handle as a human being.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense, and I like products that do make sense to me, because I'm not the most technically apt. I guess that brings me on to the platform itself, because a few discussions on this podcast have encompassed like user experience, user interface, how intuitive a product is, because of course we have to cater for the non-technical stakeholders. We have to cater for the non-technical users. I would imagine that user interface, user experience, that whole realm of things is going to be incredibly important for Mapify and its application, given the type of user potentially working with the app.
Yes, that's true. I think the challenge with a lot of products is how easy it is to use, not just to adopt and to onboard, but also to use going forward. So we are quite focused with our users on improving that. So we release new features every week. So if a user says to us, oh, it would be really nice if I could filter by X, or I'm finding it really frustrating to constantly copy some of my activities. So within that week, we'll release a new feature that allows them to quickly filter by activities that are overdue, or to create a new dashboard that allows them to see events that are open, or that have been open for more than, let's say, 10 days and haven't had a resolution. So because we can move quite quickly, again, thanks to AI tools, we can write code much faster. There are open source components we can use. And what we've started to do is work with the users to cut parts of the process that add perhaps an extra layer of complexity. So you don't need to see all the fields when you're submitting an activity, or when you're sharing with your team members. You have some control, but you may just want to quickly share a viewer license. So a lot of the time, instead of trying to build something perfect and design it, in Figma or on a piece of paper, we work hand in hand with our users, and they tell us what they want, and we iterate really quickly with something really simple, and then improve and improve.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to relate this back to an app that I use daily as well, is Runner, and I really like the fact that on Runner it has like this type of knowledge base, and actually you can speak to the team over at Runner, actually suggesting new features, ways in which they can optimize the application. And I like it when businesses are present, in forums, whether that be the knowledge base itself or potentially Reddit. So I think you're doing a really, really excellent job in actually working very closely with your users, making them feel valued, making them feel heard. I think that's a really, really nice touch there. Um, Moving forward, what does the future of logistics look like to you?
To me, logistics is actually quite a simple industry, but it's very complex because there's lots of moving parts, there's a lot of people, and a lot of decisions need to be made. And a lot of the systems in logistics are disconnected. So, for example, we recently onboarded a user who is moving biological samples around the world to conduct some tests for a scientific purpose. So, let's say a clinical trial. And that should be fairly simple. You order something from a part of the world, you have a tracking link for that delivery, and it arrives. But there's a lot of documentation required, everything from customs all the way to ethical documentation. You may have to do some sort of assessment from a safety perspective on what you're moving. And that's where the complexity comes in. A lot of this can be automated. So, for example, with Mapify, you can attach all that documentation to that activity, that movement, including the tracking link. And in the future, what we imagine is that all of the operating systems would integrate with one another. Now, thankfully, we have AI agents now, and these AI agents can learn from one another and can interact with these components. So I don't have to build a custom API every single time. We have an AI agent that can go out and interact with that platform.
Yeah.
So one day, we imagine perhaps Mapify at the center of it, an orchestra of different agents and systems interacting with one another to perform that task. So if you were a small enterprise, let's say in the scientific space, and you wanted a sample, you would just say to your agent, this is what I would like. Or you would just say to Mapify, I need to order this. And it maybe knows from your previous history, you've ordered one of those before. It would interact with that supplier, send them an email, make sure the quote matches your approved budget, orchestrate the entire delivery operation, and you just have something arrive at your door. Sort of the way that Amazon does it for us as retail customers, we imagine the same thing in logistics. And it can also apply to the warehouse. So you've got a number of assets that are critical to your operation, a JCB or some sort of forklift that without it, you cannot perform your daily activities. It should already be maintained before a driver even gets to that vehicle. And the suppliers involved in maintaining or servicing that vehicle will be constantly in the loop through Mapify or a platform like it. If something changes or that forklift needs to be moved to another warehouse, automatically that maintenance schedule will be rescheduled. So a lot of the things that human beings are not good at, sometimes juggling, spinning plates on top of spinning plates, that can be done really, really well by a machine. And that's where AI, I think, has a superpower above our abilities at the moment.
Sure. And just to give a slight nod to the map there, I guess a very influential and fundamental part of the platform itself. Tell us a bit about where you're getting this, where you're getting the map-based data from, or how you're actually putting this map together. Yeah, is it like geospatial data that you're resorting to there? I'm keen to learn a little bit more about that.
Very simply, we use Mapbox.
Yeah.
So we use an existing tool. No point in reinventing the wheel.
Sure.
And Mapbox provides the layers that the user sees. We overlay the locations of the assets. Some assets, for example, might be regularly moved. So let's say you've got a delivery operation, it leaves a warehouse at a certain time, it arrives at a customer site at a predicted time. So you've got the movements already based on that delivery. We can integrate live tracking and live sensor data, but from a mapping perspective, most people just like to see their assets or their activities on a map. Oh, sure. I need to perform this many deliveries today. Or as an example, I have maintenance activities across this network and I only have one allocated personnel, one technician today. Is it possible? No. And that's where the map shows that to you visually. Obviously, we have a conflict alert that comes up and says, you've got one engineer today. They're not going to be able to perform all these activities. We suggest that these three activities are prioritized because they generate 90% of your revenue. These other three are non-urgent. They have no compliance requirement against them. Therefore, they can be postponed till tomorrow. So these are the types of things that a machine is very good at. And a map, you can visually see this is red, this is amber, for example, this is green. So with one view, one click, mobile or desktop, you can see what your operation is looking like. A lot of people just want to put simply to them. They don't want anything complex. They don't want a huge description. They just want to query and say, what do I need to do today? What asset has spare capacity? These are the questions they ask. Or how can I grow my business if I'm constantly stuck in the weeds dealing with Excel or trying to administer my operation? I don't have the time to grow it.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. I like the use of the introduction of like an LLM, like an AI agent. Over the next 2 weeks, there, I like the fact that it makes suggestions based on priority and compliance and profitability. I like the fact that you've got the map based data there to give the data context. Yeah, I think it really is a very, very interesting business, and you guys are in your infancy, right? I'm really, really interested to see, where you are going to be in 12 months' time. Tell me, you don't necessarily need to spill too much tea, but where do you see yourself in the next 12, 18 months there?
As you said, I think we are very young. I think the company realistically was only about 6 months old. We were founded in April of this year. Obviously, we've had a lot of experience in the sector, so we brought that to bear in 8+ years working in logistics and manufacturing. What does it look like for 18 months ahead? If all goes well, we will be able to orchestrate your entire business operations within the logistics context, of course, from the Mapify platform. So that doesn't just include asking questions via search or summarize or reporting on what's already in your operations, but conducting emails on your behalf based on a set of rules. So if a delivery is late or it's overdue and hasn't been marked complete, sending your suppliers reminders. That's a really simple one. On the other end, in 18 months' time, we could also integrate all of your existing business solutions into Mapify. So for example, every time you send a receipt or an invoice, that could be automatically attached in Mapify so you can see in one place. That's the simple things. And then if we really push the boat out, if we were to say, what would that look like in the future? We would be able to automatically predict when something significant is going to happen to your operations or all the risks that could occur. For example, you want to do something really big, like take on another £1 million contract. There is an impact that it'll have on your organization. You may have to hire new people. You may have to change the way you operate. And that's where Mapify can step in and say, by winning this £1 million contract, you'll need to purchase a new asset. We think you should purchase this type of asset based on the downtime of these other assets. And we can bring to bear our knowledge across different industries and different customer profiles to say, we think this is the best decision for your organization. So we can not only help you to grow your operation operationally, but you can also invest better, have a higher profitability or rate of return, and you can expand your portfolio all without having to increase your cost.
Amazing. Tell us, is Mapify hiring at the moment? Anyone interested in joining the business? Are you looking to potentially expand the business in particular areas over the coming months?
We will be looking to hire, not for this quarter, but come Q1, Q2 of next year, we'll bring on some new engineering team members,
Nice.
as well as some account manager at scale. So our biggest challenge at the moment is that we've got an extraordinary amount of demand. It's lovely, but it means that we spend a lot of our time working with users. So soon we'll be able to bring new types of users, bigger companies, and we'll need additional development talent for that, additional sales or commercial talent. We can work our customers through that journey, understand their needs, and communicate that back to the team as we need to develop.
Amazing. No, that's great. Really, really exciting stuff. I guess anyone who is watching, listening, do bear that in mind over the next 6 months. Look out for, expansion there with Mapify. So no, that's really, really exciting. Well, look, I think that brings us to a close there. I've really enjoyed the conversation today, learning more about Mapify. It's definitely one to watch for me. A great deal of potential in it. Does answer real world problems. I love the fact that enterprise users can use it there, and then individuals like you and I can also advantage from that. So yeah, no, really appreciate you joining me today on today's episode of Earth Observed. There, we look forward to hopefully inviting you back on over the next 6 to 12 months to see what the updates are and see where you are then.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Hello, and thank you for watching today's episode of Earth Observed, powered by DeepRec AI. If you're interested in joining me for an episode of your own to discuss a topic of your choice, do get in contact with me. And of course, if you are looking to scale your team within geospatial, Earth data, or atmospheric AI, please do get in contact. I'd love to understand how I can support you. Until next time, have a great day.